All right, class is in session. So, want to cover another criminal case. I like to use criminal cases to do after actions on and debriefs on so that we can learn things about intersexual dynamics and learn things about dating. Because oftentimes, like I always said, all the holes in the Swiss cheese align in these cases, and tragedy happens. But oftentimes there's off ramps that could have been taken or things that could have been done differently. And maybe we all could have faced this fate if we had chosen the same choices that this person did. So it's often great to, go over these cases. So this is the Anna Moses case. She's the woman on the left of this picture. Her son Igor is in the middle, and her husband Bob, who's later charged with this murder, is Bob Moses, I believe is his name, is the one charged in the murder. So this is when they're all a happy family. And what do I always say? There's the dual mating strategy. The dual mating strategy comes from Dr. David Buss's work in the Evolution of Desire book. And there's two sides to women's mating. There's the beta male provider side, and then there's the alpha bang side, or the alpha F side, or the alpha FUCKS side. You want to be the alpha bang. I've always said that in all my videos. And now more than ever, the beta male provider is not respected. This Robert guy also adopted her son. These are things we're constantly seeing in these murders of beta male providers. Although he's actually the murderer in this one, but tragedy still affects him. Because why? Because the beta male provider is not respected. And I know that he loves his wife. He's trying to show that he loves his wife. And he's trying to show that, look, I'm all in and I'll adopt your son. But women don't care. They can't care. They will like it. But more often than not, I would say, this is my opinion, only my opinion, that they're probably often lose attraction for you just a little bit. Going, why is he adopting my? I just don't think it has a whole lot. Doesn't move the needle much. I know that the men think it does because it's showing their devotion to her son, but women don't care. They just don't. The players that they like don't have to adopt her son, right? But anyway, there's many things to learn in this, because Anna she's had a prior marriage, she's gotten divorced, she's going to divorce this guy here, she's from Russia, I believe they met in Russia and then moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and then they moved to Frisco, Texas, which is in Dallas, basically Dallas. So anyway, we're going to go through this case. This comes from Dr. Grande. I love him. He's a mental health professional, and I love his stuff. I watch him every day. Get a lot of my cases from him, and I'll link his episode so that you can get the whole thing in the description. And sub to his channel, man. It is awesome. I watch his stuff every day. So let's see if we can just listen to a little bit.
In 2004, the family moved to Frisco, Texas, which is 28 miles north of Dallas. They lived in a 2,400 square foot house on Charleston Drive. During that same year, Anna became a U.S. citizen.
So what she get from her beta male provider husband? She's gotten her son adopted. She's become a U.S. citizen, and again, I'm not this could happen to anybody, but with all this, you would think, to a certain degree, men would go, okay, points there. She probably devoted to and she is 20 years younger than her husband, and going back to that picture. You got to overcompensate. If you're 20 years older, you better look 20. You better be in shape. You better get jacked in the gym. You got to overcompensate somewhere, and it shouldn't be money or status. But anyway, she's become a U.S. citizen, and thanks to the guy she's divorced and who adopted her son. And anyway, and she makes out a lot better after the divorce. The poor guy has to move in with 3 guys. Anyway, let's keep going.
She started working for the University of Texas, Dallas, as a data analyst. By this point...
So you have, she's got a, entry-level job at the University of Dallas, right? But she's around, professional men. When you put women in that space, she's in the space of professors. So she's going to have access to them, and you're going to see she's going to start accessing them, okay? So let's go.
Bob had a job in sales. Despite being married, Anna became romantically involved with a longtime statistics professor and coworker named John Rakowski. The age difference was striking. He was 30 years older. It appeared as though John functioned as a sugar daddy, giving Anna roughly $46,000 throughout their relationship. Anna also developed a suspiciously close friendship with a man named Jerry Caskell. He wrote poetry inspired by Anna and referred to her as his muse. Jerry wasn't.
Now, we went over another video where the guy talked to Auntie Anita, and Auntie Anita said, "You know what? Sex just ain't much for women. It's okay." She was revealing that men are the ones that are really if men didn't want sex, women, that's okay for them, and not a big deal. Now let's cut the BS on that. And this Anna lady knows the value of her sexuality. These guys are not her friend. Her sugar daddy gave her $46,000, and it wasn't because she was funny, and it wasn't because she was, a good conversationalist. It wasn't because she gave good hugs. It was because her sexuality, her sexual agency. This guy called her his muse. Now he's claiming that he didn't, whatever. But, maybe he just, liked a goon to her or something. But either way, if she wasn't pretty, if she wasn't who, her sexuality is what drew him to her. So women know the power of their sexuality. So whenever they're talking to, whenever they're trying to claim and write the narrative of, it ain't much. We don't even, she gained, try to get your D to get you $46,000. Go ahead.
With Anna, but denied that there was any romantic relationship. In March 2013, perhaps due to Anna's extracurricular romantic activity, she and Bob divorced. Anna remained in the family house, and Bob moved into a house with 3 other divorced men.
So she gets the house, he has to go with 3 other divorced men.
Using Match.com, Anna started dating. She was very active in her romantic life and had multiple lovers.
So what have I said about I've said this before, and you see it's coming true again. Dating apps, what are they? Beta male predator hunting grounds. This lady, and what have I also said? The less information they give you, the more power they have. And this lady, and this also shows, probably a level of, we just, dating apps were not a positive for men. I mean, for certain men, but for the vast majority of men, they were not a positive. And women had a field day on them. And so, we don't know, it doesn't say who her lovers are or whatever they were to her, but most guys, the term foodie date came around, women claimed everybody was hooking up. They were only hooking up with the top something percent, and, 90% of men were, getting no action. So, they really did a disservice, and it allowed women like this, beta male predators, to go out there and, hunt for men, and there are plenty of them on there, So anyway, but remember that, if you're still on there, still using them, the less information they reveal, the more that they are controlling, the more power that they have.
Her love life by being very restrictive with information. She kept every lover and special friend in the dark about the existence of the others.
And what have I also said? Number one, this is everything I say is in this. Women have rotations. She had rotations, several lovers. Also, what are women most secretive about? Their sexuality. Just like Auntie Anita. Why would she be? The women are not honest about their sexuality. And I've even said they shouldn't be. But my point is, and this is proving that point, is that she kept things secret. Probably each guy thought they were exclusive. You know what I'm saying? So this guy's exclusive.
Although Anna was still receiving money from her sugar daddy, John.
Okay, but hang on a second. Now here's this guy that's 30 years older. Her sugar daddy's giving her $46,000. Okay, yes, he's 30 years older, but what? So this guy has decided to swipe his credit card, and although this is an extreme case, yes, he's 30 years older, but at the same time, doesn't hit the gym, doesn't haircut. Let's again, what kind of health practices are we? This is laziness, is what I've told you guys. Being a beta male provider, being a sugar daddy, that is laziness. He wants to be able to look like a slob like this. There's guys his age that are in tremendous shape, that look tremendous. The glasses, he could have better glasses, he could have better facial hair, he could have color in his hair, he could have, just get a haircut, get to the gym, eat better, get a suit that fits, but no, he'd rather swipe a credit card and pay this Anna lady $46,000, to have access to her, and who knows what kind of access he had.
Before moving to the timeline of the crime,
okay, so anyway, so what you're gonna get is Anna comes home and she is shot in the back 7 times, or she's shot 7 times as she pulls into her driveway. She's gone to, looks like a Taco Bell, and she has some quesadillas in there, but she didn't have any quesadillas in her system, so it looks like her husband may have stole them. He's seen, she's killed at like 5 p.m. in the evening, and he's seen at Twin Peaks at like 7:30, so he had time to do it. But anyway, it looks like he wanted money. He was wanting her money. His blood was found in the car, things like that. So anyway.
And she was wearing a coat and scarf. There was a Taco Bell bag next to her.
We go a little further. Let's see. Right, the Red Bull. He has a Red Bull can. But so at the end of the day, she ends up, I think, through all her, and this is a big happy family once again, right? But in the end, he gets screwed, right? In his mind, and she believed, one thing you can't have is your wife thinking she's better than you. Like I said, and again, I hate to do this. Number one, he's adopted this kid, not a good idea. Number two is, once again, if you're dating a woman 20 years younger than you cannot look like you're 20 years older. The hair, okay? The competition in dating is only going to get harder. Women are going to only have more access. Social media ain't going anywhere. They're always going to have access to men, and Anna seemed to like to utilize what men could provide. Probably some had utility as far as monetary, and some had utility as a lover. You want to be a woman's lover. That's who they are definitely. That's who they definitely respect, and who they are definitely devoted to on some kind of level, right? Because it's only your presence that they need. They don't need anything else, right? But you cannot look 30 years older, okay? You have to iron your shirt. You have to be presentable. You have to, if you're going to be 20 years older and you want to dabble with a woman that's 20 years younger, then your burden of performance is going to have to be higher. And that's just generally with anybody, because after he divorces her, he doesn't have much luck. He ends up having tons of debt. She ends up having, it appeared to be a bunch of sugar daddies. Definitely confirmed one paid almost $50,000 in the course of their relationship. So, but she optimized her most powerful agency, which was her sexuality. Once again, women know the power of that. So don't ever let them, let you think that they don't know the power of that agency. And, but anyway, these are just, beta male provider. Once again, He's going to adopt a son. We understand that's not, how many cases have we seen almost every time that the kid's adopted or almost adopted in the Bruce Miller case, things go awry. Women just don't, they're not that affected by it. So don't sell the farm to try to gain a woman's approval, and I think she knows when you're doing that, right? And she stayed in the family home as well. And he had to move into a home with 3 other dudes, and he was kind of bitter about that, but he stayed friends with her, this man stayed friends with Anna and, did little honeydew things. No, she loses access to you at that point. You can still remain cordial. You can still remain respectful. But at the end of the day, no. You ain't her little, errand boy, But I think he still wanted access to her. And that's what allowed him to kind of sneak up on her and commit the murder because, he still had access to the house to a certain degree. He wasn't like a stranger, he wasn't, oh, what's going on? Did you need something? And then, plow, But again, then the dating apps, right? What have I said? The dating apps have created, get off of them, number one. But I don't think we've seen the whole mess that these dating apps have done. Women are most secretive about their sexuality. So, we don't know the half of what was going on these dating apps. We can kind of figure, but women have rotations. It was seen in this again. Women's sexuality is very strong. They're never going to go without men. We're just seeing this over and over and over. So this should be, repetition. Repetition, should be teaching us things, right? And always on the dual mating strategy, you always want to be the alpha bang because it's only your presence that she needs. With the beta male provider side, once she's had her use of you, your utility, once your utility is done for her, then you're done. And she doesn't respect the beta male provider. She only respects what she can get from you. The fact that you had to come with extra tells you that once you run out of that extra, or someone else has extra for her, but women are like water, as far as their dual mating strategy. They're always going to help an alpha bang in their life. Either your wife's going to cheat on you eventually, or she's going to divorce you and go find an alpha bang. But women are not going to go the rest of their lives, the vast majority, without an alpha bang in their life. They're sexual creatures, probably stronger than men. These are well-kept secrets. Women have done a wonderful job keeping their sexuality a secret. Now that we have the internet, now that we have TikToks, now that we have women, discussing all their failures and all their secrets to some degree, men are putting things together on, and coming together on the internet, and we're learning things just like this stuff, and we're kind of connecting the dots. We keep seeing the same things over and over. But if you're not an alpha bang, and lastly, what do I always say? Women don't love you. They love the way you make her feel. And understand, you're adopting her son, the guy in the middle, handsome man paws, adopting her son, giving her money does not move her, does not arouse her. Does not make her any more devoted to you. Now, needing who you are makes her that way, okay? So understand that. Always understand that. First, go to the dual mating strategy. You don't want to be beta male provider. And then remember all the other stuff. There's just so much. It's almost like blitzkrieg in this one. Just so many things to learn. But at the end of the day, he was convicted, given a life sentence, I believe, of her murder. And, it's just sad, but if he would have understood these facts, it's just understanding the game. He didn't understand the game. He believed probably in Disney love, she loved me, but no, you have to understand women. You have to understand attraction. You have to know when you're not respected. You have to know when you're not loved. And, so anyway, we'll see you on the next one.